This presentation highlights Paymetric's enhanced SAP reports. Paymetric provides enhanced reporting for SAP within Paymetric's PCMA reports and utilities. You'll notice in this opening screen that we've broken out the reports relevant to sales and distribution and financial accounting. These reports pull from the standard SAP database tables in which the transactional data related to credit card payments on sales orders, invoices, and accounting documents are stored. However, these reports have been developed to display that data in much more usable formats than any standard SAP reports. Let's go through a few of these reports. We'll start here in the sales and distribution relevant section. The first report listed is Payment Card Authorization Response by Date. I've built demo variants for each of these reports, so we'll go ahead and execute this report with this variant. This particular report is intended to show you every authorization response within a given date range and the current status of that response. So you can see we have many of these particular authorizations that have already been settled. You can see one here that is in a current approved state. However, according to the configuration, that authorization is now technically expired. And at the bottom you can see we have a couple of other response types, a declined message and a communication error message. Each of these rows is designed to display as much information as possible about a given authorization and the documents related to that authorization. So for example, this particular sales document 175 was an OR document type. The authorization amount was $212.50 US. It was eventually invoiced and posted to accounting. You can see the invoice document number 900000562, posted to accounting document 555, and then settled into batch 85. Off to the far right, we would have information related to the credit card details, the expiration date, cardholder information, authorization date, time, authorization code, Paymetric transaction ID, or in SAP referred to as the authorization reference code, the merchant ID used, the GL account posted to, etc. Trying to show as much information as possible about each authorization on a single row. The majority of our customers that use this particular report will execute it such that they hide any approved responses and instead show only those responses where a decline or a communication error has been received. That would then allow them to drill into those particular documents to view the current status and perhaps enter a new card in hopes of obtaining an authorization on that order. So here's the decline message. You can see that we are simulating a lack of funds available on that customer's card. It could be at this point I would remove the authorization block, choose a different card on that customer's account, and try and obtain an authorization by saving the order with that particular card. We're going to go ahead and back out without saving the order. And typically that's how this particular report would be used. Let's move on to the next one, payment card activity by partner number. This report is designed to allow you, again I'll use a demo variant here, to enter in a particular customer number and partner function. So this SP stands for the sold to party. And what we will do here is with this particular report, sold to party, with this particular report we want to find any document, any sales order in which this customer number 100,001 was the sold to party and on which a credit card was used. So if I execute this, you can see I've only got one, but document 178 where the sold to party was customer 100,001 and the card number was the card number entered. Next report, expiring payment card authorizations. Now this differs slightly from the first two we've seen. The first two reports are simply pulling data from the standard SAP database tables. The expiring payment card authorization report introduces some business logic. This particular report is designed to help you proactively identify any authorizations which are currently expired in the system, but the SAP business logic has not yet determined that, nor has the business logic attempted to resave the sales order that that authorization resides on to obtain a new authorization. So we'll execute this report, and you can see found here one particular document. We originally had an approved response, hence the green traffic light. It is now technically an expired authorization as of the date listed. This report is also intended to be run as a scheduled job. We'll run it manually here to select that item, forward it to authorization, and hit save. When I do so, if you'll watch the message bar at the bottom, you'll see the messages related to SAP resaving this sales order in the background and thereby invoking the standard business logic to determine if a new authorization is required and send it off for an authorization request through the Paymetric on-demand service. So I'll hit save. You can see the authorization takes place. The sales order has been updated with this new approved authorization response, which in my system is now valid for several more days. The card information that was used is listed, and if I scroll over to the right, we could see details such as the authorization date and time, approval code, XIPay transaction ID, merchant ID and GL accounts, and the various response codes that were returned with that authorization attempt. If I drill into the document, I'd be able to go to the payment card header screen, see that card number. You'll notice again the user only has authority to view the token but can still identify the card based on the last 4 digits shown here. And the previous response is now marked as expired, whereas the response just received on today's date, the 17th of February 2010, is listed as an approval with all the corresponding response codes shown here. So a very useful report that will proactively help you refresh authorizations prior to you trying to create subsequent documents such as deliveries or invoices, in which case if an authorization that was not valid did not exist, or if an invalid authorization existed, the system would typically place the delivery on a credit hold and not allow you to post goods issue, or if it was being posted to accounting, would create the invoice but block it from posting to accounting. This report helps you proactively avoid those scenarios. And we're going to skip down to a report that you'll see is listed both in the sales and distribution and financial accounting sections. It's the last report in both. This report is designed to help you find any particular document on which a specific credit card number is referenced. Very useful in the scenario where, for example, a customer calls up complaining that they have a charge on their statement that they don't recognize. It's from your company on a certain date for a certain amount, and they'd like more information as to what that charge is related to. This report would let you put in that information and search for a sales document, billing document, or accounting document where that particular credit card was used. When we execute this, we'll find that we have several documents within the system in which we've used that particular card, and you can see the token listed here. And we would find all the information relevant to that particular transaction on each row. So the sales order number, the document type. Off to the right, if there is an invoice or an accounting document relevant, you would see those listed as well, and the settlement batch, if there is one, that particular document was included in. So perhaps we wanted to find the case where there was an invoice that was settled for somewhere between $600 and $700 where this particular customer is complaining. That would pull up, you can see here, only 2 documents, a sales order and an invoice, and in fact they're linked to each other. You can see they were authorized, or the authorization amount relevant to both is the same. The settlement amount relevant to both is the same. Well, I could click on that invoice and then quickly give the customer information about the materials that were on that invoice, the quantities, the dollar amounts, etc. Give them the information they need to know to be able to recognize what the charge on their statement was related to, and hopefully avoid a customer dispute to the credit card processor that may eventually result in a chargeback to you. We'll skip on to the next report. We're going to go into the financial accounting section. We'll start here with a report that's designed to assist you with your settlement reconciliation. It's a report that will allow you to view all the items that were in a settlement batch based on the SAP batch number. So we could type in batch number 88, for example, and perhaps I also want to approximate the fees that I should expect to be charged for that particular batch. When I execute, any card type that was in that batch, I can enter a percentage for. Then this is just an approximation, but let's assume that on average for a MasterCard I'm charged 3.5%. I'll go ahead and execute that, and for Amex, usually a little higher, let's say 4.1%. And Visa, maybe the lowest, so we'll just say 3%. Well, in this report, you'll see that we've taken all of the items that were in that particular batch and we've broken it out where we have credits with a subtotal and debits with a subtotal, a grand total at the very bottom, and then for all the debits, we've approximated the fees so that we can see when our deposit is received. We should expect a deposit for $2,708.46 US, less approximately $103.56 US. If our deposit is close to this amount and we're able to easily eyeball the amounts to reconcile, all that remains left is to post a credit against the open item listed here in the bank settlement clearing account and then post a debit to cash. If you want to properly account for the processing fees that are charged, you would likely also post a credit to cash and a debit to your processing fees account. All these reports can also be extracted into Excel. You can rearrange column headers, save that as a display variant for you to use the next time you execute the program. Very flexible, all built with the ABAP list viewer functionality. So for example, if the CFO would like to see this particular report but doesn't want to log into SAP, you could go ahead and click on the Excel report here and it would extract it into an Excel spreadsheet. And once that's done, you could then save that spreadsheet and pass it off to the CFO. So the next report you'll see listed here is very similar, although this allows you to view documents that have been settled across a date range rather than just in an individual batch. With our demo display variant here, we're going to pull a list of all the items that have been settled through today's date, and we'll start that from the 1st of January 2009. When I go ahead and execute this, we'll see a result report that's very similar to what we'd seen before, and we'll put in different percentages for all these card types once again. And we'll just have random amounts there. You'll notice that for each of those batches, they're now included in this single report. So we would have a result that shows us a subtotal for the credits, and at the very bottom a subtotal for the debits with a grand total. And you can see the approximate fees have been calculated as well. So what this is very useful for is month-end, quarterly, or end-of-year reporting, any period in which you wish to find the amounts that have been processed in your system. In that roughly 14-month period, we have transacted just under $68,000 US, and the fees that we have calculated are approximately $700 US. Very good report to give you an accurate view of the transactions that have been processed within a given date range. The last one we'll take a look at here is this report labeled Reverse Clearing with Payment Card Data. This particular report is essentially a search engine built around a standard SAP transaction, FBRC. FBRC allows you to reverse an item that has been settled with a credit card so that it returns to be an open item on the customer's AR account. And that is typically used when there's been a chargeback dispute, the customer has won that dispute, and your processor has withheld those funds from your next deposit, essentially returning them to the customer. In those cases, it's best that you reverse that transaction in SAP to show that it's an outstanding receivable on the customer's account, at which point you can either try and collect it again or more likely you will write it off. There's three different ways that we can search for a transaction. We can search either by the batch number. If we did know the accounting document number, we could search by that, and that's in fact what the standard FBRC transaction uses. Or if we only know the credit card number and type, we could search that way. We're going to use the batch number so that we can take a look at items that were in the batch that we settled earlier today. And if, for example, we knew that it was the item for $637.50. We could select that item and then hit save, at which point we'll call the standard SAP functionality related to transaction FBRC. That will post a reversal document, and you can see the report is updated to show that reversing document. When we drill in, you'll see that the funds have been placed back onto the customer's AR account and pulled out of the bank settlement clearing account. What's interesting is when you take a look at the document flow for this particular document, we'll go into the original document here. So here's the invoice, and if we take a look at the document flow, you'll notice that the original order is marked complete, as is the invoice. However, the accounting document, the original accounting document, is now marked as partly cleared. The only time you'll ever see that status when there is a credit card being used is when the partial reversal or this credit card reversal function has been used to place the open item back on the customer account. And it's actually this original accounting document which now is the open item. It's not the document that was just posted, which by the way you don't see in the document flow here. It's in fact the original document. So if this was a dispute that a customer raised for a charge that was 3 months old and this item has been reopened, it would show up in your dunning or aging reports as 3 months past due, and unless you write this off, would remain an open item on that customer's account. So that essentially shows some of the custom reports and functionality that have been added by Paymetric directly into your sales and distribution and financial accounting modules. Again, for the most part, leveraging standard data stored in standard SAP tables, displaying them in much more usable formats, or in some cases adding new functionality that's missing from SAP that closes a gap in some of the functional needs of our customers. This augments additional functionality offered here in the PCMA main menu, some settlement tools that provide some additional functionality for settlement. The receivables management functionality, which adds the ability to process credit card payments directly in the financials module, typically against open items on a customer's account, and administrative tools that provide you the ability to view connection status of your RFCs that connect the communication between SAP and Paymetric's on-demand service.